Hey there, I'm Sakali. I streamed a whole bunch of demos during Steam Next Fest, and today we're going to be talking about everything I rated 4 stars. First up, we have Crystalla. This is a quite satisfying cat-based Dark Souls game. And I really found the combat really engaging, really fun. The combos were fun to execute. I found most of the buildings, however, were really repetitive. And my biggest issue was with this gameplay, it's still overwhelmingly dark in some areas. And this was after we had to boost the gamma, like 100%. It was far too dark. You also don't feel very grounded. You feel very like floaty, especially when it comes to traversing the rooftops, trying to get onto different platforms and wires. I could never really feel like I was properly in them. And then while the enemy types are varied and interesting, their AI needs a lot of work because I just ran the entire way around this little like fort and they were too slow, they couldn't keep up with me. They didn't chase me for very far. I never felt threatened by any of them really. So that needs a lot of work. I'm not even sprinting here, I'm just wandering and they're just nowhere close to even catching me. They also don't trigger very early on. So I think that could be part of the problem. Next up we have Particular. This one is a cute little like world builder where you just get to do terraform to encourage other critters to live in your area, to get more points, to get more critters and more different decorations, different critters. One of my main issues would be in the kind of setting up of the areas. It doesn't really give you a guide to how large each of the different like kind of animal homes should be, where their kind of borders would be, or it's just kind of luck of the draw, whatever you can draw in. I only ever got bees and some fish. And then some of the menu was confusing between different tasks versus different just like extra bonus objectives. And it was a pain to navigate all those different things. As well as the demo really pushes you to expand really quickly into the game. And I feel like that should definitely be held off a bit until you understand the area that you're working with before you add in more areas. But it's a really crazy game. I could spend a lot of time in here. Next up is Venture to Survival. This one is a really nice kind of platforming adventure. I really liked how they have that death mechanic where there's the forward and the backward kind of scenarios. And I liked all the different little objectives you could fill along the way during your adventure. The different enemy types are very fun. I especially liked being able to counter the birds, for example. They were really satisfying. The platforming is a little bit too unforgiving, and same with the dodge roll. I would like a little bit more iframes in that, especially when it comes to the boss fight, because it is very unforgiving in that aspect. Overall, it's a very solid game. I'd like to see a lot more of it, and I'd like to see it progress even further. Next up, we have The Last Faith. This one is a very classic Castlevania style gameplay. I liked a lot of the combat. My biggest issue is with the platforming. The amount of times I've failed to do a jump like that, because it's really not forgiving. And even when you're not being chased by anything, I still had to jump several times to get up most of the platforms, and it's just really exhausting. But the combat itself is really fun. I just really need to see that platforming that you do for a lot of the game, so much of the game, I would like to see be refined and a little bit easier. And I know these games aren't really big on like map access, but that would help me a lot. Finally, we have While You Wait Here. It starts off as a very normal, but still slightly tense diner sim situation. However, things get weird really quickly. I was so engaged with the narrative that was unfolding as you went along that I didn't really pay too much attention to the kind of a little bit funky gameplay. There were some situations like it took me far too long to realize that I needed to put a plate down on the tea towel in order to finish up the burger. And it wouldn't let you do things in different orders. Little things like that would kind of took you out of it a little bit, but then it brought you back in with that real weirdness that happens very quickly. It's also a bit of a shorter gameplay, so we don't know how many decisions along the way really impact the story and whether they do or not. But the characters are really engaging as well and different, so I really want to see more of this and see what this weird apocalyptic survival story is. So while it still needs a little bit of work, this is definitely one to keep an eye on because it is wild. That was everything that I ranked 4 stars for Steam Next Fest. You can check out the videos of that gameplay over on YouTube or catch me live on Twitch. Until then, I'll see you next time.